spiralis, we can use albendazole, mebendazole, whereas for filariasis, we use DC, that is diethyl carbamazine citrate, ivermectin, and albendazole. And for tapeworms, we use praziquantel, niclosamide, and albendazole. And for hydatid disease, we use albendazole and mebendazole. Hydatid disease are usually hydatid disease. What happens? There is formation of hydatid cyst in the liver, and whenever this cyst bursts inside the abdomen, it will lead to anaphylactic reaction to the patient, and patient may go into the state of shock, and if it is not treated promptly, patient may die. Now coming to mebendazole. So mebendazole, it is a synthetic benzimidazole derivative, and it has 100% cure rate roundworms, hookworms, enterobius, and trichuria, and it has broad spectrum of activity, that is anti-helminthic activities, and these are 75% effective for tapeworm, but it is not effective for H. nana. And for the treatment of hydatid cyst, when mebendazole is given, it has to be given for prolonged duration of time. So for the treatment of hydatid cyst, it requires prolonged treatment. And hatching of nematode egg and larva are inhibited by this drug, and the eggs of Escherichia are killed by mebendazole. Now coming to mechanism of action, it has very slow onset of action, and it usually takes 2 to 3 days to develop its action. So mebendazole, when it is given, it will bind to beta tubulin of the parasite, that is protein. Beta tubulin, it is a protein that is present in the parasite. So mebendazole, it will bind to the beta tubulin of the parasite, and it will inhibit the synthesis of microtubule. So after binding with the beta tubulin, it will inhibit the synthesis of microtubule, and when it inhibits the synthesis of microtubule, it will impair the glucose uptake by parasite. So parasite will not be able to take the glucose, and due to deficiency of glucose, what happens? Intracellular microtubules are gradually lost. So due to deficiency of glucose, intracellular microtubules will be lost, and the intestinal parasite will be unable to mobilize. It will be immobilized, and they will gradually die slowly due to deficiency of glucose. So basically what happens? They will bind to protein, that is beta tubulin. So after binding with beta tubulin, it will inhibit the synthesis of microtubules, leading, and after inhibition of microtubule, the parasite will not be able to take glucose, and there will be deficiency of glucose in the parasite, and there will be gradual loss of microtubule, leading to immobilization of the parasite, and slowly there will be death of the parasites. Coming to pharmacokinetics, so it is usually administered orally, but it is absorbed very poorly from GI tract. It is metabolized in liver and excreted through the feces. And for short-term therapy, if it is given for short-term, it doesn't have any adverse effect, but sometimes it can have mild gastrointestinal disturbance like nausea, diarrhea, and abdominal pain, and it can cause allergic reactions. It can cause granulocytopenia. There will be decrease in the count of granulocytes. There will be loss of hair, and it may have elevated liver enzymes. And mebendazole, it is contraindicated during the pregnancy, and it is also contraindicated for the children below the age of 1 year. The uses. So mebendazole, they are they usually come as a 100 milligram tablet. So it is available as a 100 milligram chewable tablet, and it is also available as a suspension, that is each ml contains 100 milligram of mebendazole, and these are usually effective for the treatment of roundworm, hookworm, whipworm, and for roundworm, hookworm, and whipworm, we usually give mebendazole in the dose of 100 milligram. It is given twice a day for the period of 3 days. So total duration of treatment is 3 days for roundworm, hookworm, and whipworm. Whereas for interobius, it is given 100 milligram single dose. So it is given as a 100 milligram single dose, but it is again repeated after 2 to 3 weeks because there is chance of recurrence of interobius is very high. So it is usually repeated after 2 to 3 weeks period of time. And for Trichinella spiralis, 200 milligram twice a day for 4 days. Whereas for the treatment of hydatid cyst, it is given in the dose of 200 to 400 milligram twice a day for 3 to 4 weeks. Though mebendazole is also given for the treatment of hydatid cyst, but for treatment of hydatid cyst, we prefer albendazole rather than mebendazole. Though it can also treat hydatid cyst, but albendazole is preferred for the treatment of hydatid cyst. Now coming to albendazole, albendazole it is also a congener of mebendazole. It also has a same mechanism of action as that of mebendazole, that is albendazole. It also binds to the beta tubulin, and there will be decrease in the parasite will be unable to take glucose. So there will be depletion of the glucose, and gradually there will be immobilization of parasite, and there will be death of the parasite in case of albendazole also. So it has comparable efficacy with mebendazole for treatment of roundworm, hookworm, and interobius. And it also has a broad spectrum of anti-helminthic activity, but it has less effective against trichuris, and it is more effective against strongyloids, and it is also effective in tapeworm infestation, including Asnana, and also it is effective for hydatid larva. Okay, larva of hydatid and ova of Ascariasis as well as hookworm infestation. But it has weak microfilarial action and cutaneous larva migrants. So it is most effective in the treatment of tapeworm infection, Ascariasis, and hookworm infestation. Coming to pharmacokinetics, so moderate and inconsistent oral absorption is there, and albendazole, what happens, fatty meal enhances the absorption of albendazole. So whenever we take albendazole, we can take it along with fatty meals because it will increase the absorption of albendazole. We can also take it along with milk because milk contains fats also, so it will increase the absorption of albendazole. So fraction absorbed is converted into sulfoxide metabolite, that is the active form of albendazole. So when we take albendazole, it is converted into sulfoxide metabolite, which is the active form of albendazole. And albendazole, it usually penetrates brain within t half of 8 to 9 hours. Okay, so it is the basis of tissue anti-helminthic activity. In case of neurocysticercosis, we give albendazole, and it usually penetrates within 8 to 9 hours. And for intestinal worm, for the treatment of intestinal worm, albendazole is usually given in empty stomach, whereas for the treatment of for the tissue action, it is usually given with fatty meal because it will enhance the absorption of albendazole. And as an adverse effect, it may cause dizziness, and when it is used for prolonged period of time, it may cause fever, headache, alopecia, jaundice, and neutropenia. And it is also available as a tablet, in a dose of 400 milligram tablet, and it is also available as a suspension containing 5 ml is equal to 200 milligram of albendazole, which is usually preferred for the children, and it is used for the treatment of ascariasis, hookworm infestation. So for ascariasis and hookworm, it is usually given as a single dose, that is 400 milligram for adults, and for children below 2 years, we can give half the dose of adult dose, that is 200 milligram. And after children, if the children is above 2 years, you can give adult dose, that is 400 milligram. And for tapeworm, a little higher. For the tapeworm, 400 milligram is given for 3 days. And for neurocysticercosis, albendazole is the treatment of choice. So here, 400 milligram 2 times a day is given for 1 to 2 weeks. So I think everybody knows what is neurocysticercosis. It is it is the neurological infection. It usually affects the brain, and it is usually caused by larva of Tinea solium. Okay, so the person who usually eat the pig meat. Okay, so Tinea solium is usually present in the meat of the pig. So those person who usually consumes meat which are not cooked properly, pig milk meat which are not cooked properly, may be having the chance of neurocysticercosis. So it will affect the brain. Patient may present with history of sudden onset of headache, vomiting, and patient may have seizure. And we can diagnose neurocysticercosis by doing CT scan or MRI of the head. We can see a calcified nodules in the brain after doing the MRI. We can see a small calcified nodules in the brain. It is the larva, which contains the larva stage of Tinea solium. So in neurocysticercosis, albendazole it is the treatment of choice. And for hydatid cyst, it is given 400 milligram twice a day for 4 weeks. It is repeated after 2 weeks up to 3 courses. So for the treatment of hydatid cyst, it requires prolonged treatment. Okay, the treatment will go for prolonged duration of time. So it is usually given in the dose of 400 milligram twice a day for 4 weeks, and there should be a gap of 2 weeks, and then after 2 weeks again 400 milligram BD is given for 4 weeks. So total there will be 3 courses. So there will be gap of 2 weeks, and then again same it is given for 4 weeks. So there will be total 3 courses altogether. And treatment of choice, and it is also a treatment of choice before and after surgery. So hydatid cyst may require surgery. So before surgery also and after surgery also we need to give albendazole. And for filariasis, the drug of choice for filariasis is diethyl carbamazine citrate or ivermectin, and along with these two drugs, albendazole is also added for the treatment of filariasis, especially in case of lymphatic filariasis. And albendazole it is also used in mass program for children to lower the worm burdens, particularly in developed countries. So it is also given as a mass chemotherapy for the school under age, usually less than 5 years old of children. And it is albendazole are contraindicated during the pregnancy because it has embryo toxicity. So never albendazole is never given to the pregnant females. Now coming to another drug, that is levamisole and tetramycin. So these drugs are effective against any nematode. So nematodes, these are usually roundworms. So they are effective against any nematode, but it is restricted to the Ascariasis and Ankylostoma duodenale. So coming to mechanism of action, so when these drugs are given, these drugs they stimulate the ganglia in the worms. They will stimulate the ganglia of the worms and they causes tonic paralysis. And after stimulation of the ganglia, there will be tonic paralysis of the worm and there will be expulsion of the live worms. So this drug it will not kill the worm, but it will paralyze the worm, and they, after being paralyzed, these worms are expelled out in the live form. And there may be inhibition of fumarate reductase enzyme that is present in the worms. So when there is inhibition of fumarate reductase enzyme, there will be interference in the metabolism of carbohydrate. So main mechanism of action, that is primary mechanism of action of levamisole is it will bind to the acetylcholine receptor ion channels, and there will be opening of ion channels. So after the channels are open, there will be influx of calcium inside. So influx of calcium will cause depolarization, and when there is depolarization, there will be spastic muscles contraction, that is tonic contraction of the muscles of the parasite, and the parasite will be unable to remain in the intestine. Okay, so there will be tonic contraction, and there will be parasite will be unable to remain inside the intestine, and this parasite will be expelled out through the feces. They will expel out life. Okay, and the alternative mechanism of action is they will inhibit the fumarate succinate, and there will be interference in the carbohydrate metabolism of the parasites. And levamisole, it is used for the treatment of roundworm infestation and hookworm infestations, and it may sometimes cause nausea, abdominal pain, and drowsiness also. Now coming to another drug, that is pyrantial palmoate. So this drug was originally, before it was used for the treatment of pinworm infestation, but nowadays this pyrantial palmoate, it is used for the treatment of hookworm infestation as well as roundworm infestation. So do you know that hookworm, this is the, they may cause anemia in the children, and in those places where, like, in people having lower socioeconomic status, and those people who usually live in the villages where there is no proper hygienic practice, where they where the children they walk in the barefoot, these hookworm infestation are very common in those children. Those children, they usually walk barefoot, and this hookworm has ability to penetrate the skin. They will penetrate the skin of the foot of the children, and they will enter inside the body, and they may cause anemia in the children. And this drug, it is used for the treatment of hookworm and roundworm, and it is less active against Necator, Strongyloids, and Trichoris, but it is highly effective for the treatment of roundworm, pickworm, and hookworm. Coming to mechanism of action, so pyrantial palmoate, it will stimulate the nicotinic and cholinergic receptor in the worm. So it will act on the nicotinic receptor as well as cholinergic receptor of the worms, and it will cause persistent depolarization. So when there is persistent depolarization, what happens? There is release of acetylcholine, but there is inhibition of cholinesterase enzyme. So there will be increase in the level of acetylcholine, but there will be decrease in the level of cholinesterase enzyme. So after being persistent depolarization, then the worms will slowly develop contraction, and there will be spastic paralysis, that is the tonic contracture is developed. So whenever there is hyper depolarization, there will be spastic or tonic contracture of the parasite, and then these worms are expelled through the feces. This drug, it is given orally, but it has poor absorption, but about 80 to 90% of oral dose is excreted through the feces. And for treatment of Escherichiasis, Ankylostoma, and Enterobius, a single dose of 11 milligram per kg is recommended. It is given as a single dose, that is 11 milligram per kg. So we have to calculate the dose according to the body weight of the patient. And adverse effect including nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, headache, and dizziness. Coming to piperazine. So piperazine, it is highly active drug against Escherichiasis and Enterobius vermicularis. So it is active against Escherichiasis and Enterobius, but it is less active, or it doesn't have any activity against hookworm infestation. And mechanism of action, it causes hyperpolarization of Escherichia muscles by having GABA agonistic action of chloride channel opening. So what happens whenever there is hyperpolarization, there is opening of the chloride channels, and there will be efflux of the potassium, and there will be influx of the calcium, causing hyperpolarization, and there may be decreased responsiveness of acetylcholine contracture contractile response. So there will be basically there will be hyperpolarization of the Ascaris muscles, and there will be opening of the chloride channel. There will be efflux of potassium and influx of calcium, and there will be decreased responsiveness of acetylcholine contractile response. So main action of acetylcholine is the contraction, but there will be decreased responsiveness to the acetylcholine, leading to flaccid paralysis. So parental palmoid has had in parental palmoid there was depolarization causing tonic or spastic paralysis, whereas after taking piperazine there will be hyperpolarization and there will be flaccid paralysis of the muscles of the worms. And sorry. And coming to adverse effect, it is usually well tolerated. Sometimes it may cause nausea and vomiting, and there may be dizziness and convulsions if it is given in a higher dose, and it is contraindicated in the patient with renal failure, and it is also contraindicated in the patient with epilepsy or seizure. And it is used for the treatment of roundworm infestation, and the dose is 4 gram once a day for 2 days. And these drugs in pregnancy can be given to the pregnant female also, and it is also used in intestinal obstruction due to roundworm. So sometimes when there is large amount of roundworms present in the intestine, patient may have intestinal obstruction. So do you know what are the features of intestinal obstruction? Whenever intestine is obstructed, patient may have history of abdominal pain and vomiting, and there is uh, patient also complains of unable to pass the stool for 2 to 3 days, and there is patient may not be able to pass the flatus also due to obstruction of the intestine. So intestinal obstruction may be either due to uh, loaded stone or due to adhesion, that is the joining of the intestinal mucosa together, or sometimes the intestinal obstruction may be also due to the roundworms. If there are large clumps of roundworm in the intestine, it may also cause the intestinal obstruction. So for the treatment of intestinal obstruction that is due to roundworm, this drug can also be used. And now coming to diethyl carbamazine citrate, which is also known as DEC. It is the drug of choice for treatment of filariasis, and it is also used for the treatment of loa loa, and it is used for the treatment of tropical eosinophilia. And since DEC, diethyl carbamazine, it is a piperazine derivative, it has similar action, that is okay. Okay, pharmacokinetic, it is a synthetic piperazine derivative. It is rapidly absorbed from gastrointestinal tract. It is metabolized in liver, and it is excreted in the urine. And dose is usually reduced in urinary alkalosis and renal impairment because it has faster action in acidic urine. So if the patient is having urinary alkalosis, the doses of diethyl carbamazine citrate is usually also in the patient with renal failure causes decrease. And it is mechanism of action, it usually acts by two mechanisms. Since it is a piperazine derivative, it also causes hyperpolarization, and there will be flaccid paralysis. And another is it cause alteration of the surface structure of microfilarial membrane. It will alter the membrane of the microfilaria, and it will displace them from the tissue. So it will alter the structure of membrane of the microfilaria, and it will displace them from the tissue, leading to death of the parasite. And it also causes hyperpolarization. So whenever there is hyperpolarization, it causes flaccid type of paralysis, and the worms are expelled out, and it is used for the treatment of filariasis. It is the drug of choice for the treatment of filariasis. It is given in the dose of 2 milligram per kg 3 times a day for 7 days. And intermittent microfilaria is the problem. So it can reoccur So more than one course of therapy should be given in a gap of 3 to 4 weeks. So microfilaria can, there is chance of reoccurrence of microfilaria. So more than one course is usually given for the treatment of filariasis. But once patient is having elephantiasis, if there is swelling of the limbs and patient has, if the patient has already developed elephantiasis, that is elephant like limbs, if it is already developed, this DAC will not be affected in case of elephantiasis, and it is also used for the treatment of tropical eosinophilia. So what happens in tropical eosinophilia? When we see the blood count, we can see increase in the eosinophil counts, and when there is increase in eosinophil counts, or when there is tropical eosinophilia, patient may have history of shortness of breath, cough, wheezing, and lungs may be affected. So for the treatment of tropical eosinophilia also we can use DEC in a dose of 2 to 4 milligram per kg 3 times a day for the duration of 2 to 3 weeks. Now coming to adverse effect, it may cause nausea, vomiting, loss of appetite, and there may be febrile, patient may have fever, and there may be rashes, pruritus, enlargement of lymph node. So after taking DC, if patient present with fever, rashes, allergic reaction, etc., we should withdraw the drugs. We have to stop the drug for certain duration of time, and after patient is recovered, then we can again start with antihistaminic and corticosteroids. Since there is allergy history of allergy reaction, so we can start with antihistaminics and corticosteroid. And this adverse effect can be minimized by starting the drug in very low dose. So we should always start the drug with a low dose. We shouldn't jump directly into the higher dose because it may cause fever, rashes, etc. Coming to ivermectin, this is the drug which is obtained from Streptomyces evermitilis, and the mechanism of action is uh, it is its action is, it is drug of choice for the treatment of onchocercosis volvulus and treatment of strongyloids, and equal to DAC in filariasis, and it is also effective against cutaneous larva migrans as well as ascariasis, and it is also used for the treatment of head lice. Okay, that is pediculosis. Coming to mechanism of action of ivermectin. So ivermectin, it will potentiate the glutamate gated chloride channel in the nerves and muscles of the parasite. So after glutamate gated chloride channel has been potentiated, and it will potentiate GABA transmission in the worm. So there will be GABA transmission in the worm, leading to hyperpolarization by increasing the permeability of calcium channel, and there will be paralysis of the worm leading to death. So similarly, what happens? There is, it potentiates the GABA gated chloride channel. There will be hyperpolarization, and when there will be hyperpolarization, there will be increased influx of calcium inside the channels, and it causes paralysis of the worms leading to death. It is usually absorbed orally and metabolized in liver and excreted in the urine, and adverse effect is dizziness is the most common adverse effect, and sometimes it may cause pruritus, dizziness or giddiness, nausea, abdominal pain, etc. And it is used for the treatment of filariasis. So for treatment of filariasis, it is given as a single dose, that is 10 to 15 milligram orally, along with one tablet, that is 400 milligram of albendazole. It is given once a year for 5 to 6 years. So for treatment of filariasis, ivermectin, it is given in the dose of 10 to 15 milligram along with 400 milligram of albendazole. It is given only once a year for duration of 5 to 6 years, whereas for the treatment of strongyloids, it is given in the dose of 0.2 milligram as a single dose. And Ivermectin, it is also given for the treatment of scabies. For the treatment of scabies, it is given orally, and it is also given for the treatment of pediculosis, which is known as head louse or head lice. Now, another drug is niclosamide. It is the second drug of choice for treatment of tinea solium and tinea saginata. So, tinea solium, it usually causes neurocystic sarcosis, and for that we can use niclosamide. It is poorly absorbed from the gastrointestinal tract. So, how does it act? So, niclosamide, it inhibits the oxidative phosphorylation in the mitochondria of the parasite, and it will interfere with the generation of adenosine triphosphate, and it rapidly kills the adult worm. So there will be inhibition of oxidative phosphorylation in the mitochondria of the parasite, and there will be interference in the generation of ATP, and it will rapidly kill the adult worm. And the injured worms are digested or they are expelled through the purgation. And it is given orally in the form of chewable tablets. And adverse effect containing nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, headache, and skin rashes. So treatment schedule for tapeworm. In case of tapeworm infection or infestation, we usually give niclosamide in the dose of 1 gram. It is usually taken on the empty stomach. So after taking 1 gram of niclosamide, we have to wait for 1 hour, and then after 1 hour again 1 gram of niclosamide is taken, and then again we have to wait for 2 hours, and after 2 hours a saline purge is given 2 hours after to wash off all the worms. So after taking nucleoside, what happens? It will kill the worms, and these killed worms has to be expelled out. So along with niclosamide, after 2 hours, we give saline purgative so that the dead the dead worms can be washed off from the stomach. Okay, so what is the role of purgatives? The purgatives are those drugs that will make the stool what? In the watery form, isn't it? So it will make the stool in the watery form, and it will help to wash up the worms. Another drug is praziquantel. It is a novel antihelminthic drug with wide range of action, and they have action mainly cystosomes and other tremators and cystos, but it has no action against the nematodes. And pharmacokinetics, they are rapidly absorbed and enhanced by food. So absorption is increased by food. So it is given along with high fast metabolism. It can brain barrier, and it has therapeutic concentration in cerebrospinal fluid. And phenytoin, carbamazepine, and steroid, they induce metabolism of praziquantel, so failure of therapy. So praziquantel should not be given along with phenytoin, carbamazepine, and steroid because it has drug interaction. These drug will increase the metabolism of praziquantel. So if there is increase in metabolism of praziquantel, there will be failure of the therapy. And coming to mechanism of action, this drug, it is rapidly taken up by the worms, and when it is taken up by the worms, it causes leakage of intracellular calcium from the membrane. So when this drug is taken, it will cause leaking in the membrane of the parasite. So when there is leakage in the membrane of the parasite, it will cause leakage of the calcium which is present inside the membrane. So this will cause contraction and paralysis of the worm, and then tapeworm will lose the grip into the of the intestinal mucosa and are expelled. So tapeworm usually they will lie very close to the intestinal mucosa, and after this taking this drug, it will causes paralysis of the tapeworm. So after being paralyzed, tapeworm will lose the grip that is present in the intestinal mucosa, and they are gradually expelled out. and they act against all stages of worms including larval stage. And other mechanism of action is that it causes vacuolization of the membrane and there will be release of intracellular contents of the tapeworm. Adverse effect is it is bitter in taste, which causes nausea and vomiting. It may also cause abdominal pain, headache, and dizziness. And it is used as a first line drug in all tapeworm infection. And dose is it is given as a single dose in a dose of 10 to 25 milligram per kg, and it is also effective for the treatment of neurocysticercosis. For neurocysticercosis, it is given in a dose of 50 to 100 milligram per kg every day in three divided dose. That is, it is given three times a day for 15 days, and it will kill the larva that is loaded in the brain as well as that is present in the other tissue also. Now, anti-helminthic treatment of neurocysticercosis. So, tinea infection can cause. They are responsible for causing neurocysticercosis. So, neurocysticercosis it is a neurological infection of the brain which is usually caused by tinea solium, and patient may have history of sudden onset of headache. Patient may have history of vomiting. There may be history of unconsciousness, and diagnosis is confirmed by doing CT scan of brain or MRI of the brain. And for the treatment of neurocysticercosis, we usually prefer albendazole. So albendazole is preferred drug, and the course of treatment is shorter. That is, it is usually given for the duration of 2 weeks. And along with that, we also give corticosteroid, that is prednisolone, in the dose of 40 to 80 milligram per day, or we can also give dexamethasone in place of prednisolone in the dose of 18 to 12 milligram per day, and it has to be started 2 days before and continue till 2 weeks after completing the anti-helminthic course. So what happens before starting albendazole? At least 2 days before starting albendazole, you have to start corticosteroid, and then after 2 days of starting corticosteroid, you give albendazole, and it has to be continued till 2 weeks after completing the anti-helminthic course. That is, first you give corticosteroid, then after 2 days you give albendazole, and albendazole has to be given for duration of 2 weeks, and corticosteroid has to be continued till 2 weeks after completing the anti-helminthic course. So albendazole is given for 2 weeks, and corticosteroid has to be continued for 4 weeks. Okay. So what does corticosteroid do? It will suppress the inflammatory reaction to the product of kill larva. So whenever we give albendazole, it will gradually kill the larva of the tinea solium. So while in the process of killing the larva of the tinea solium, so there will be release of various inflammatory mediators. Okay, so these inflammatory mediators, when they are released, it may cause rashes or it may cause seizure in the patient. So to prevent that inflammatory reaction in the process of killing the larva, we give corticosteroid. And for patient with seizure, if the patient has developed seizure due to neurocysticercosis, we have to give anticonvulsant. And anticonvulsant should be given beforehand. That is, either we can give phenytoin or carbamazepine, and it must be continued through the course of antihelminthic medication and for indefinite period after that. So to prevent the patient may have seizure or may not have seizure during neurocysticercosis, but during the treatment due to inflammatory reaction, patient may develop seizure. So to prevent the seizure, we have to start phenytoin or anticonvulsant drug as a prophylaxis, and it has to be continued throughout the antihelminthic medication, and it may be prolonged. It may be given for prolonged duration of time also after finishing the antihelminthic medication. Also, in some patients, we have to continue giving anticonvulsant drug because patient may have recurrent episode of seizure due to neurocysticercosis after completing the treatment also. So it can be given for indefinite period of time. That's it for today's class.